So, Diego, let me get this straight. So, you think you're tough because you crossed the street without looking? Or because you participated in a bus race in Central America? Or maybe because you saw Batman in Peru? Let me hit you with a dose of historical reality. If I dropped you into the Middle Ages, you'd last maybe 3 days. Nah, honestly, you probably wouldn't make it through day one without crying into your burlap shirt. Let me transport you really quick. Welcome to the Middle Ages, where if you don't go to the other side because of bacterial infection, you'll go because you got accused of sorcery. Today, we're breaking down why I think modern humans are hilariously unequipped to survive medieval life. Spoiler, it's bad. Like eaten by wolves while getting married bad. But let's just jump directly to it. Okay, Diego, let's start by saying modern humans, aka you, are deeply disconnected from nature. Remember last week when you freaked out when you saw a cockroach in your apartment? Imagine sharing a wooden shack with lice, fleas, and the occasional wolf. Not that wolf. Wolf, that's not a camping trip. That's your reality now. Wild boars and wolves could and did send people to the lobby. The wilderness wasn't something people visited back then, it lived with you. These creatures were a real threat not only for the human's own life, but also for farming animals and crops. And let's not forget rats, adorable today, apocalypse bringing back then. The Black Death, spread by fleas on rats, aka the reason half of Europe ghosted life in the 1300s. This wasn't your average flu. This was Plague.xx, a terrifying, fast-spreading disease that killed an estimated 75 to 200 million people across Europe, Asia, and Africa in the 14th century. That's not a typo. Millions. In some towns, it wiped out 50 to 70% of the population in just weeks. One flea bite, and you're coughing blood and dying in 3 days. No antibiotics, no hazmat suits, no TikTok dances explaining symptoms. Just vibes. Dangerous, medieval, disease-ridden vibes. Okay, I need to admit that was impressive, Diego, but we're not done yet. If you think modern healthcare system is a nightmare today, don't you remember the time the hospital betrayed you? Congratulations, you've never had a medieval doctor stick leeches on your body as paracetamol. The concept of germs wouldn't exist for another 500 years. Illness was blamed on astrology, bad smells, or God's wrath. Diagnoses were speculated, not scientific. Surgery was performed with no anesthesia, no gloves, and often, surgeons did not understand germs or sterilization. Tools were reused without cleaning, and operations took place in dirty environments. You couldn't call an ambulance, you called a priest, and that wasn't for healing, that was your pre-death prep. I know what you are thinking. You were right. But unfortunately, we're not even halfway through it. You might be hungry, but remember you're in the Middle Ages as a peasant. Food in the Middle Ages wasn't gourmet. Unless you were rich, and even then, it was 80% meat and weird jellied things. You were probably eating porridge made from barley every single day forever. Vegetables were considered poor people food, which is hilarious now that kale costs $8 a bag. Meat was rare for peasants, and if you got it, it was probably dried, salty, or suspicious. Fruit? Seasonal? Sugar? Practically non-existent. Oh, and your food had a high chance of being moldy, parasite-ridden, or accidentally seasoned with ashes from the hearth. You wouldn't be vegan, gluten-free, or keto. You'd be on the hope this turnip isn't poisonous diet. And yet, you'd still probably die of malnutrition, or as nutrition for others. I knew you would survive. Again, I won't set trials you cannot bypass. I must remind you one thing, though. That squirrel you had, I know you didn't hunt it because, let's be honest, you can't hunt. I saw you yesterday and it was awful. I mean, how is that even possible? So you must have taken it. Unfortunately, justice in the Middle Ages is kinda brutal, so you are guilty until trial by fire. Drowning, or God says otherwise. Don't worry, Diego. I got you. Diego, let me introduce you to your pet, Penny Barbara. Just imagine, people were literally thrown into rivers. If you floated, you were a witch. If you sank, congratulations, you were innocent and dead. And as if it wasn't enough, they could even make animal trials and sentence them to death. Let's be real, medieval towns stank. Open sewers, livestock in the streets, unwashed bodies, and rotting garbage were everyday realities. And as if wasn't enough, in the Middle Ages, dragons were real and terrifying, at least for them. But let's say they're real so we can draw Diego being attacked by a dragon. Don't worry, Diego, you'll have a sword. To medieval people, wolves and bears were as common and real as
Dragons.
medieval folks believed dragons lived in caves, mountains, deep forests, or just outside the map, literally where maps said, "Here be dragons." This wasn't a metaphor. They fully believed that beyond the edge of the known world were massive, flying, fire-breathing reptiles waiting to roast you like a medieval marshmallow. But what's fascinating is how universal dragons were. Across Europe, they appeared in legends from Wales to Russia. Some were winged and fiery. Others were more like serpents, vast, coiling, venomous beasts. In France, they were river monsters. In Eastern Europe, forest spirits. In England, they lived in hills, guarding gold beneath ancient stones. Dragons weren't just part of the map. They shaped it. Cartographers labeled distant, unknown lands with the phrase Hic sunt dracones. Here be dragons, as a genuine warning. Just to be clear, dragons weren't actually real, but people believed they were. Congratulations, Diego, you survived. Now let's return to the present. For your bravery, effort, and courage, you've earned a new dragon friend. Also, I convinced her to stay, and I think she might be interested in becoming your girlfriend. So, don't mess up the date. And that's basically why I think the Middle Ages were such a brutal time. No one could easily survive.